Yeah, good evening. Welcome to the migration meetup. So I will be presenting something which we just started recently to strengthen on our side. It's about digital transformation. So if you think about this one, I'm not sure how much you've been involved, on which level, but it's everywhere, on every news, on every site. You can Google it. So in a sense, it is a journey for organizations and takes time and resources and money and everything. So I'll introduce quickly myself. Got 27 years experience within the IT. So I'm Generation X, not boomers. So, but it's still fairly old and gone through many technology transformations in my life. I was lucky to work or be associated and did marvelous projects with all these organizations. And for the purpose of digital transformation, my philosophy is that only synergy between people, process, and technology can drive successfully business and technology transformations. This is true because I've been in 30 years. All these transformations which I've been through were very linked to this kind of things, because any technology deployment always was impact on the people and impact on their own processing what they do. So basically, I like fast and paced environment. We now call it agile. Previously, it was rapid application deployments or development and prototyping and quality like that. Now it's agile. But it's all to do with the fast-paced environment. And I used to be a ice hockey player, semi-pro, and I like these kind of fast games in a fast environment. So anyway, digital transformation for, as I said, for many mean different things. For Microsoft, for instance, they're defining as reimaging how you bring together people, data, and process to create value for your customers and maintain a competitive advantage in a digital-first world. So for them, this is the key: people, process, and information, which it is. I mean, now it's a big topic about data management. People have millions, and the colleague from Veritas will actually go into more detail, but it will be like a tip of an iceberg. You know, like the data you know and you operate with is a little tip above the water. Everything below the scene, it will be unmanageable, unsorted, unsolicited, name it, the data we don't know about, most of it. So, and how we're going to manage this information to be able to actually move with the digital world and moving into a cloud, for instance. And again, in previous session is actually for the digital transformations is the time where the organizations can't anymore afford not to look over what's going to be next, because it will be eaten by competitors and the market itself, so they have to reinvent itself. So status quo, no more valid. They have to actually be more proactive and innovative to move on with the current businesses and how the world operates. So for the digital transformation, I just put a couple quotes. One of the CIOs, and most of the CIOs, I guess, when I spoke and here, is that we are IT as enablers of technology, and we shouldn't be driving all this, should be business, which is partially true. CEOs, they definitely now, and this is good about the digital transformation, they say that we don't need digital strategy, we need the business strategy for a digital world. This is the first time in my 30 years career that not IT is pushing something towards the business. Actually, business wants actually this. They're realizing that if they don't move into a digital world, they will stay behind. Their business will be dying. So this is the first time that the business said, okay, I need this, and because this is a journey, I'm not sure how you see the digital transformation, so it's not end state. So basically, you have to plan, and it will depends on the organizations, on maturity of the organizations. It will last 2, 3, 5 years, and then through the small iterations. So we're not saying a big bang. So we're going to plan and make this company digitally transform. It's all about a journey, which then business is now realizing that they have to invest, and they can't invest in a 12 months iteration, saying 12 months budgets. They have to plan in advance for 3 to 5 years and stick to it. And what it's all about is actually about the customers. This time around, it's all customer-centered innovations. If on the left side, I actually show this is a typical marketing model, how you actually drive your business, all about competitions, how your customers work, and how you operate with your buyers and like your chain. But actually, what it does nowadays with our new generation Y and Z, this is actually all about the customer. If they're not happy, they won't actually stay with the company. They'll turn back and go somewhere else, move. So they will actually, by 2020, it's all about the customers. That's what I say, which is actually true. Moving forward, again, I will keep this quotes above just to show you how that will actually work and how the digital transformation actually make it sense and all of this. So the digital transformation, so far what I've seen in the industry is actually focusing on a vertical. So basically, for our services, they will call us and saying, I need to move this data to the cloud. So I need to move this infrastructure to a cloud, for example. The cloud is actually kind of the main kind of driver for all these digital transformations. It's a base, a framework. And they're not realizing that these three key elements of people, process, and technology actually has to be done, but not only done on those pockets of the functions of the organization, it has to be end-to-end. They have to actually cover all functional part of organization, because basically if you say customer-centered focus, everything within that chain should actually transform. If you have just pockets of transformation, you won't serve the end product to the customer on, it will be dissatisfied eventually. So very important, this bit. And from our processes, it's very important to, I'll go to the next slide, to understand what is in place and what organizations. That's why it's different definitions of digital transformation. Every company has got its own, because it's a different scenario, different impact on their business throughout their own functions. So what are the obstacles in this sense? The first one I put is about IT itself. Most of the organizations which the software is not a core business technology, it's actually, we are usually like operational cost. We're running to support the business. There is no much innovations as such seen as kind of business strategy part of it. So the IT is not usually involved in a strategic business decisions. Usually it's actually given. We have a great plan. We want to do this, make it happen. And then CIOs goes in and said, okay, this is the vision of our CEO. Let's see what is our vision, how we can align this technology to it. And what the digital transformation does, and very important, is actually the IT has to be now become a partner with the business. Has to closely work with CEOs or the boards, has to closely work with the HR, human resources, because impact on processes and people is there definite, so it has to be close relationship from the start. And again, IT has to go through that kind of cycle of operational support, has to go into that innovative mode to actually be able to look through the big picture. Key challenges, obviously everyone is a hot topic, is cybersecurity and data privacy. Always it's about the cloud. The main driver for all this, it is a cloud, and putting data into cloud, it makes many people, many organizations very nervous. Hybrid challenges because of that. many organizations decide not to go or partially go to a cloud, making hybrid environments. I've been working in an environment where we had 4 environments to talk to each other. So we had AWS, Azure, Microsoft, Google, and local data center. Because of the data and privacy, and because some legacy in place, name it, but you can't just lift and drop into one cloud. You have to actually kind of plan and make that kind of happening journey, and in between, it's a hybrid happening. Process obstacles, again, this is 2 types of processes. One is actually as you move into a cloud or you change, digitize the organization, becoming more agile, more lean, and more rapid to change, you change their processes, people. This is where it's a big impact. If they're working in some environment where you're just scanning and paperwork or Excel, and then you're putting Office 365, obviously you're changing the process. Just like a basic example. On the other side is actually the process of changing. We're moving. This digital transformation is a process and journey. So basically, where you have to start. Many companies have challenge knowing where they should start, how to start, how to actually create those little increments, and then move on around the roadmap to actually create that roadmap. And I put in the right corner is you have to start on top. If you need to have a clear vision from the board, from the people, where you want to be, where you want to land it, properly roadmap and plan and action it, and then of course making sure that it stays there, because usually as humans, if it doesn't work, they'll go back to their original. So it doesn't matter if you implement the state-of-the-art technology, and if they see it doesn't work for them for whatever reason, the change or like politics, culture, they will go back and start using the old-fashioned whatever they've been doing before. So you would say it was a successful transformation, but it will fail eventually on their own. It will slow down, I guess. And which proves the people and culture point, where along the way, as we're pushing this technology, we also have to actually work on that side. So making coaching with the boards to make sure that they understand what is the digital transformation for their organization is, to create a vision, and then strategic objectives and action plans, to the like how do we roadmap and plan, and then see what are the strategic priorities to actually have that implemented in a small agile iterations, one by one. So we're going back to customer-centered. So basically, key driver for this is the customers. And it's all about the customers. And many organizations and the teams, even within the organizations, functional units, they're supposed to collaborate. They actually lose what is their own customer, in a sense. So to actually have these digital transformations in time, you have to actually train, coach, mentor these organizations to first of all find out who the customers are. They lost that perspective. So that's why even the Erica Fenston says one of the best ways to get started with the digital transformation at your agency is to recognize the importance of a customer-centric approach. They have to go back and review their position. Now, who are our customers? I put a little bit of this goldfish kind of attention span photo, but it's about Generation Y and Generation Z, which is now new ones, but the Generation Y. And their span of attention, I'd say, on this, they actually found that their average attention span is 8 seconds, where the goldfish is 9. And average time you have to make an impression online is 3 to 5 seconds. So if I go back to my early days in the 90s when I was architecting the solutions, and they come back, the team comes back and show me something on 14.4 modem web browser, and I said, just count to 10. I don't want to see it. Just count me to 10. If I don't get the information in 10 seconds and I can actually navigate somewhere to look for more information, your code is failed. I don't want to actually go anywhere further. So mine was 10-second rule. Nowadays it's 3 to 5 seconds. So basically these guys, they don't have that, that attention is gone. So basically these customers means that there is no kind of, like I like this company, I'll stay forever. No, they will say, if you can't actually prove me that you can sell me something or can use something, I'll walk away. I'll move somewhere around and look for another company which will give me that information or service or product. So this is where what we are actually the challenge is. Another one is these new generations, they don't believe in this office work, 9-to-5 work. They like to wear a beard, they like to have casual clothes, they want to actually work from home. They don't think that to be 9-to-5, they will actually they will contribute as much as if they actually stay home, save for commuting and all those things. So definitely different, relaxed culture they're trying to promote. Which in ZNet, they had this kind of pilot to see how that works for them. This is a big organization. And they proved that actually they made huge saving in employee engagements, on facilities, on productivity. They actually measured those things, and they saw that this hot desking environment, all this works best for them. That's relaxed. They don't need to go every time to work. They will come in and meet, because over the phone or video, it doesn't work every time. You want to see face-to-face. I like face-to-face interaction. And they proved that actually by moving through this digital transformation, they made possible. Their digital transformation was not only the moving into a cloud, they actually did redesign the processes around facilities and the people management in this side had to adjust. Cybersecurity and privacy, another challenge, I guess, applies to infrastructure security, data security, storage, identity management, privacy, audit and compliance, business continuity, name it. We know that. We got a guy from security, probably you'll know far more what's going on inside, but definitely this is the primary concern of the organizations. And cloud as a new medium, this is where all these concerns coming from. Not that everyone was actually reporting they had any security breaches. It's just like security is like a second nature. You're risk aware. So actually, by thinking about risks, security like this is always on top of the agenda. These are the quotes of the CIOs and the benefits of these organizations on the left side. On the right-hand side, a little comic. Basically, what it says is actually, yes, some of those who are already embarked on those journeys, they see the benefits of doing digital transformation, jumping on board as quickly as possible. But actually, the ones who are starting, it's actually, I would always say, they don't know what they don't know. They actually completely blurred of where to start and how. So it's very important for us, whoever comes in, is actually that part of the education. That what's in it for me? Why my organization or me personally have to actually buy into that kind of process or journey. Should I actually go or walk away and go somewhere else? I like my 9-to-5 job, and I'm like a few years from my retirement. Why would I change something which I beautifully worked for the last 35 years, whatever. So basically, from one point, we have a lot of buyers and a lot of organizations which are all there. But it's many of those who are starting is actually complete confusion, what that means to them. These are some findings from people who are doing all these researches. Basically saying that most of the organizations are planning to do things like digital transformation, so which is good. So many of them, they realize the boards are actually trying to actually secure the funding from their investors, whoever, that the ones who are already on that journey see the benefits already, because it's sometimes very hard to actually say total cost of ownership or have we doing right things on digital transformation, should we iterate all this. But the positives are there, showing that definitely the companies are on board. They're willing to spend millions of dollars or billions in some instances, and they already can track the benefits. They can report back. So now, this is maybe more overwhelming. I won't go too much, but this is one of projects I've been involved in the past. It's all to show how the data transformation can affect your businesses. If you are from a consulting company like us, usually you got service jobs. Someone calls you, like I said, moving from one medium or like infrastructure to a cloud, all these things. And that's how the organizations operate in the background. They have some plans. They did some tactical plans or strategic plans to move some environment to cloud. And basically, they were on a vertical of functions, or their functions. So you have two choices, how you actually look your little world. Through the vertical, specific needs, specific customers, or vertical markets, or wide range of needs, large customer base, or horizontal markets. This is the project which I started with GE Money and REMS to online application. They just said, I need online for 10 minutes, approval for your, to go on holidays, $5,000. Anyway, so we started with that one, but then let's say, okay, are we going to actually only to supply the needs for that particular customer? We go to a horizontal market. This is all what has been put in place, which is everything through the cloud. BizTalk, I've been actually acting for the BizTalk orchestrations. Lexi is actually lending in industry XML initiative. So to be able to exchange that data and information, it has to be standardized. So basically, we standardize all this. So basically, when you go on online, you type in, I want $5 grand for a holiday. This is what's happened. It shoots all these orchestrations to all of those members, and they start supplying the information. Depends on if you want a house, obviously it will take a while, but if you want a $5 grand, it will go to credit check and whatever, and it will come back with your stuff. But this is operating. Anyway, so basically for us, for the vision itself and what we're trying to do at the digital TMC service, is actually to do that end-to-end solution. So basically connecting people, technology, and processes together and offering end-to-end. So basically review of the business, what is the functions and what it works with them in the digital world, what needs to be improved, or there is nothing to build from scratch, and then give them all this, including the training to make sure that the boards understand the value and vision through the process improvements and also the cloud. Obviously, we have the power of moving. And services is business engagement, data and information management capability, and secure by design technology deployment and capability. So basically, business engagement is the one which actually focuses on people and processes. What we're trying to do is actually make sure the company embarking on digital transformation have a good vision. They have actually improved, so there is something tangible through the collaboration, transparency, and information management side of it. Also, office space as well, because they want to work at home. So basically, how we're going to actually contribute on those ones, and professional development. They need mentoring and development, all the other stuff. And I'll skip. So how it works on our side, obviously we don't have all the capabilities. It can't be, created overnight. Capability, capacity, time. So what we do, we have associate program. So we actually partner with these guys. And what we do is when we go to the customer, we know what is the end-to-end process map, roadmap, and then engage of those if we don't have our own capacity and knowledge. So again, specific needs and can be targeted on both vertical and horizontal markets, but what we're trying to cover end-to-end. And just to recap, quick one, it's the 6 keys to becoming digital organizations. The key points: customer-centric, must be; cloud, based on clouds; processes; people and culture; data and innovation. They are the keys to this one. So we're trying to actually, when we go to the customers, they have to be realistic. If they want to embark on these kind of things, and again, it's a journey, so you don't need to have everything in one go, but you have to start from somewhere. And we have to work with them what that is, where they have to start. So analyzing the functional, like how business model, even if we need, but going through all this, including the technology as well. And this is it. I mean, that's the process. Envisioning, helping people to understand what is up for, what they're up for. Road mapping, make sure that we can have these quick, short iterations and progress as we go. Plan and execute, and run and then review, and do it again, and again, and again, until we actually come to that maturity that we say we are a digital organization and we can move to something else. That's it. So any questions? Yep, go.
There are different solutions out there that actually bring the cloud into the data center. I know we've got Amazon here, but I'm not sure if they have something in that space. But they'll maybe can share some light from an Amazon perspective. But definitely from a Microsoft perspective, there's something called Azure Stack, which bridges the gap between your on-premise data center and your cloud data center. So yeah, I think that's one way. AWS might have some other solutions in that space.
Definitely, that was just about to mention it, Azure Stack, because I did that kind of hybrid version for a data warehouse. So basically, they didn't want to let go some things. So basically, we actually had that kind of conversation and architected the solution that actually we're using the Azure Stack. That's a data warehouse in a partially was there as well. So yes.
VMware on AWS. So for customers who already deployed their workload on VMware, they can seamlessly migrate their workloads onto AWS Cloud, which runs on VMware.
Yes.
Great point. You can basically extend your on-premise data center via VMware directly to the cloud. Awesome.
Okay. Any questions? Any more? Go for it.
So, for example, there's different function departments, and they want to look at robotics or AI or RPA, but there's so much out there. Like, do you guys come in and sort of like say, oh, maybe you can use this as a service?
So I'll go back to the customer perspective. So basically, there is a million tools. There are a million tools there on the market, and then you have to analyze what you're trying to achieve. What sort of AI tool you want to, how to use it, and what purpose. Looking at the customer end, what are you trying to achieve? So basically, what we're trying to see the function, again, pockets of the functions in the business. They want to be more advanced or less advanced than the others. It's more about the information. What you're trying with the AI is collecting the information. It's about the data. If you have organization which can't handle the data, they don't know what to do with it, you can actually, I mean, even this recording, it goes somewhere on a hard disk, and if nobody review it and see what to do with it, it's a dead end. So basically, one thing is IoT, which actually gives you the opportunity to capture the information. But before you start capturing, you have to understand what you're trying to do with your data and how actually that life cycle begins. I think guys from Veritas will definitely cover that bit. But this is what's happening. It's again not about the technology. It's about the business and understanding the purpose of that.
Hello everyone, my name's Lawerence. I'm from Veritas, and I'm here to talk to you about how we can help you accelerate your digital transformation journey with our data management capabilities. So just a bit of an intro on Veritas as a company. We've been a really strong enterprise software company. We're the number 1 and 2 in all the markets that we service. and we service 85% of the top Fortune 500 companies. So, in a lot of ways, we've put a lot of trust and credibility with our customers, and we not only have a great history and legacy with our customers, but also a lot of innovation and growth. In the last few years, we've grown our backup and appliance markets, and definitely we're seeing a lot of growth trends around, you know, the digital transformation side of things and protection once customers have moved to the cloud. So in terms of the cloud transformation, I think it's been covered before, but a lot of the key reasons why, you know, the C-level folks are interested in digital transformation is because of the innovation, the ability to connect with the customers in a more agile fashion, provide speed to market in delivering new and exciting products and services. And that's all well and great, a very, you know, good efficiency in getting customers on board. But for the architects, the layers underneath, and the solution designers, there's a lot more things that have to be worked through. There's a lot of disruption in the technology architecture. It's about balancing the old, you know, how do you manage the existing systems with the new systems that need to be in place as part of the cloud transformation journey. And as well as that, maintaining stability as well. So really ensuring that operations will continue to operate in a seamless manner between multiple environments and systems. And how Veritas can help is really around 3 phases around data management. First of all, it's, you know, giving customers the ability to see what data they have, what's important, what needs to stay on-prem, or what can be archived out, what should be candidates for moving to the cloud, or what should be deleted. Once you have that visibility and you have an idea of what data is important and which resides in which location, then we have tools to help our customers migrate their workloads, whether it's applications or data, to the cloud. And then thirdly, once the data is residing in the cloud, we provide the means for you to protect that data. This is pretty much what I've gone through already, but I guess some of the key areas that you might not be aware is that some of these areas have specific areas that need to be accounted for. I mean, for instance, in terms of the cloud platforms, they have SLAs around uptime, but in terms of you know, data restoration, it's not something that they focus on. So that's where we can help in these areas. And the way we describe this is pretty much a 360 approach to data management. It's a holistic view in a circular segments, which gives you insight into your data. It also provides you with tools to make sure that you are complying with regulations. For instance, the mandatory data breach notification scheme that's come into place recently, ensuring you always have a business continuity. And if your systems are not up and running in either the cloud or on-prem, you have means to automatically recover in a matter of minutes. And then to be able to choose where your applications reside, to do that in a seamless fashion without a lot of the complexity that's involved. So I'll go through some of these areas in a bit more detail. Now, in terms of moving to the cloud and digital transformation, here are some of the common use cases. First of all is, as I mentioned, understanding your data and the value of that data and the risks attached to that data before moving to the cloud. And then for a lot of companies, the first step could be just having your applications on-prem, but just backing up your data to the cloud as a replacement to tape. You know, tape traditionally has been a concern in terms of the reliability, and it might not actually be restored that quickly because you have to truck those tapes from a distant location to your data center, and that might take hours. And usually some non-critical workloads like backup is a good use case for moving your backups and long-term retention to the cloud. And then when I mentioned compliance, you know, recently we've had, if you're aware of what's going on in Europe at the moment, we have a general data protection regulation, GDPR, which says that any EU citizen can ask for their data to be brought on demand and deleted at request. And that doesn't affect only just European organizations, but also Australian companies that actually collect and host European data. So you need to have the tools and means to identify privacy-related data and to be able to delete it on demand. And then from a cloud standpoint, the migration of the workloads, that's a common use case to, running scripts and running import tools that are specific for each cloud is not easy to achieve, especially if you have a multi-cloud approach to cloud adoption. And then disaster recovery, ensuring that your environment is always up and available. So, and then at the end, to be able to protect that information once it's residing there in the cloud. And from a Veritas standpoint, we have been known over the last decades as being really a data protection company. So our leadership and market strength has been around our backup and recovery solutions and archival, so including that backup and enterprise vaults. But ever since we split from Symantec, we've really focused on information management as a whole. So we've definitely built a lot more capability into other areas like workload migration, disaster recovery, and other areas that you see on the screen here. So let me start by the first step of the cloud migration journey, which is getting better visibility of your data. And how we start with this is by showing you some of the research that we've conducted. In the last few years, we've done a lot of surveys that's resulted in some information insight around things like 41% of data hasn't been touched in the last 3 years. So companies are storing all their data, and a lot of that data isn't really being used, and it's just sitting there in case someone really needs to access it. And why would you spend so much of your storage on information that's not readily used? You want to either archive it to a lower tier of storage or move it to the cloud. And then only about 15% of data is really useful, clean and relevant. About a third is what we call rot data, redundant, obsolete, or trivial, which means that there's duplicates, it's nothing to do with the business, it could be game or BitTorrent data, that's copyright infringed materials, all sorts of information there in your corporate network that might expose your organization to legal risks. And what is actually also quite unnerving is that most companies don't know actually where the data is, what's the value in it. So it's dark. Half of it is really just unknown. They just don't know where the data is. So you need to have tools in place to help classify your data, know your value, and know the risks attached to that data, so you can take appropriate information governance action around it. And that's where we have some stats here around things like embarrassing correspondence, sexually explicit material. These are the sorts of things you need to be able to identify and take the appropriate action and delete them before you put it into a public cloud infrastructure. And how do we do that? So this is a screenshot of one of our applications called Information Map that has connectors to both your on-prem environments as well as your cloud environments. So you can see at a dashboard view the data that resides globally, the currency of that data. So there are little filters here at the bottom that allows you to slice and dice your data around different criteria, such as the age of your data, the size of the data, and you can really pinpoint particular segments very quickly. You can filter by owners of the data, so you can have an e-discovery case going on with litigation where some employee could be doing some insider trading, and you can use this tool to quickly identify that type of information. So that's really useful for you to work out what data really should belong on-prem versus what should be used to migrate to the cloud. So initially we had connectors to our net backup software, but so that we can actually extract the metadata from our backup solution, which gives you visibility into the data that's being backed up and where the data resides. But recently we've also produced a lot of new connectors that allows you to see around the different cloud providers. We already had AWS, but then we've also got now Azure and other cloud providers. a lot of the document management system, so we can actually see information around that, as well as container type data, structured data from SQL Server and Oracle and Exchange and so forth. So there's definitely a wide visibility into your landscape, and that really helps in using your ability to use cloud as an extension, not as a separate silo where you just throw everything in as a repository. And that really allows you to complement your durability as well, so you can have the ability to protect your data across your various different sources. Now let's move on to how you actually migrate your data. There's basically two ways you can go about migration. There is I guess perhaps a more expensive approach where you actually design from the ground up, or you refactor existing applications, but that is a bit more costly. The other approach is really just lift and shift, but that is also quite onerous in that you have to do a lot of testing to make sure it performs and that it's functional and it works in the cloud instances. And it's around the lift and shift approach for especially enterprise-grade applications like Oracle and SAP that we provide the tools to help you with that lift and shift approach. Because as you can see here, you know, the C-level people are concerned about how the lift and shift might jeopardize your performance and resiliency. And so what we have is a platform that can help you lift and shift and automate the process to migrate your workloads to the cloud. And that platform is called Resiliency Platform. And it's basically a single pane of glass that allows you to just click on a single button that automates the migration of your workloads from on-prem to another on-prem instance or to the cloud. Here we're showing AWS as an example, but we also have similar capability around things like Azure and IBM Cloud. And what it involves is also replication between your on-prem sites and the cloud instance, so that in the event of a disaster, you can shift your workloads transparently from one side to another side. The great thing about this tool as well is that you can even do rehearsals. When we're looking at compliance, you can actually have your applications running on-prem, and you just want to do a rehearsal, a test in the cloud instance. It takes a snapshot, brings it up in your EC2 instances, and you can run all your testing there without even affecting what's happening on-prem. So that's a really great use case for this. So not only from cloud migration sense, but also from disaster recovery and rehearsal sense, this is a great automation capability. And this gives you a snapshot into what the user interface looks like. Here, as an example, we have a US company that has a data center in Cupertino in the west coast of the US, and they've decided to migrate their workloads to Amazon in the East region. So it shows you where the assets are located, and also how your risks are going in terms of the replication and the status of the data being moved across. And then through a click into the assets, you can see exactly the workloads that's happening. Here we can see it's a NetSuite application. It's an Oracle CRM with 3 tiers. It supports multi-tier applications, including Oracle backend, the middleware, the BI, and the web layer. And through this interface, you can just pretty much click on a button here on the right-hand side in the management operations section, and from there, it will migrate your workload across from Cupertino to AWS. So here you can specify your different tiers of the application, and then it would just, by clicking next, start an automatic workflow execution that would move that application to the cloud. Now imagine doing that manually. It would take a lot of steps, and where you have to get different SMEs to run their different scripts and invoke manual procedures. And by this automated tooling, it orchestrates the whole process. And it's also flexible. You can define your own workflow, but this is straight out of the box. It knows that the dependencies between the different tiers of the application, and it can also invoke parallel processes at the same time here to automate the time to migrate or to failover environment in a DR scenario. So you know, when you consider things like a DR environment, in the event of a disaster like a cyclone, you don't want to run a war room, have different people try to call them up and run their scripts, and it's all chaotic. This is all, you only need one person to be able to click a button in this application to achieve this automation. And the other capability this tooling gives you is the ability to move your workloads seamlessly, even back to on-prem. Recall that I talk about lifts and shifts, that, you know, while it's great for you to test things out, if it's not designed, you know, from the ground up in the cloud, it might not perform well. So it gives you an escape route to move your workloads back to an on-prem environment should it not perform and you need further adjustments or tuning around it. So yeah, the resiliency platform gives you that escape route that is otherwise difficult to achieve. So I've talked a bit around this already, but by having this platform, it helps you to minimize your CapEx expenditure to run your apps in the cloud. You can start small, move a few apps across, and then see how it goes, and then that gives you better confidence then to start a wider program of work to move more of your mission-critical applications in a staged manner. And it gives you the ability to scale across your whole data center and protect your workloads wherever it may be. And as we move towards protection, we also have a capability to allow you to protect your workloads in a multi-cloud environment. You know, we've done some research, and I think it was mentioned earlier that, you know, customers are not only looking at one cloud provider. They might have workloads that they need to have hosted in AWS as well as Azure and Google. So through the one interface, we provide the means for you to automatically create snapshots across all your different cloud environments, as well as in the private cloud. So we also create snapshots on your on-prem storage arrays, and it can all be managed through this one single interface that's easy to use. And traditionally, before this tool was available, customers would have had to deploy multiple point solutions. There are various backup products out there that are focused on specific environments, virtual environments, or they focus on a particular cloud platform, and you have to operate and run multiple tools. So with CloudPoint, which is the Veritas solution, it gives you the ability to just minimize all the investments in different technologies, standardize in one platform, and be able to protect across your various endpoints. So yeah, here this is an example where the customer might have to deploy one backup solution on one cloud platform and then another in the other one. But in this case, we are just calling APIs across multiple cloud platforms. And through that API, it just allows you to store that those backups on any location you choose. You can deploy CloudPoint in another cloud provider, or you can deploy CloudPoint and store your cloud workloads back on-prem in a reverse manner. And this is the central user interface. It's fairly straightforward. It's basically snapshots that you can define across multiple cloud platforms. And you can choose a different retention schedule based on number of copies. You might want to say, I want to store 10 copies of this particular cloud instance, or based on time interval. Maybe you want to execute one every week, and in this case, I think it's every month for the 19th. And there's also role-based access control, so you can really get quite granular in terms of the permissions that you assign to your administrators, so that they don't have control over all the different cloud instances. So as an example here, we've got Jane, who's basically allowed to snapshot just a particular set of workloads. And they have been given permissions just on specific areas, so that you can either take a snapshot or you can classify the data in that snapshot, and that gives you a bit of a better control over the security of the data that's held in your snapshot. These are the particular assets that Jane has access to, so it's only the EBS volumes on a selected manner. And yeah, again, that's your retention policy there. And here you can select your different cloud platforms to be protected. So that covers your infrastructure that you own in the cloud. But how about SaaS applications and platforms, where basically the cloud provider takes responsibility for managing the application itself? And what we have at Veritas is an application that supports your backup of your Office 365, G Suite, as well as Salesforce across the standard objects and workloads there. And you might be wondering why we need to protect that. Doesn't this cloud provider do that for you? Well, actually, these SaaS providers typically only provide assurances around uptime of their platform. So in the event of a user error where an employee has deleted data inadvertently and want to restore from a previous version, these SaaS platform providers aren't able to really help you with that. And the other thing as well is that when you have ransomware, you might have ransomware that's gone into your desktop and you're syncing with OneDrive to Office 365. That gets affected there as well, so they don't protect you from that from a Microsoft sense. So this gives you the capability to protect yourself from some security risks as well. So while we have support for these applications today, we are working on other connectors in the near future to support other SaaS applications such as CRM Dynamics, Dropbox, Skype for Business, and other ones as well. So yeah, this is just really a preview of all the different products that I talked about and how it maps to the use cases that I mentioned around your digital transformation journey, around information map, providing you visibility into the data that you have. We've got CloudPoint that helps provide the snapshots and data protection in your cloud, as well as the resiliency platform that provides cloud migration and the disaster recovery capabilities as well. And in addition to that, we also provide some services that can assist you with migration workshops and things like that. We work with the migration company and other partners as well on providing dark data assessments so that we can actually see the bottom of the iceberg to help you see the data at risk, so you can identify what really needs to be migrated and what should be safely deleted. And that's pretty much it. So I'll sum up by saying that we are a trusted enterprise company with a strong history with the top customers, and that not only do we do data protection, but we can help you with your migration to the cloud, accelerate your digital transformation journey, and give you freedom of choice, provide you the means to move to different cloud providers and move your workloads wherever you wish to go. So yeah, that's pretty much a view of how Veritas can provide a holistic data management capability for your organization. So thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.
You ready? Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. My name is Santosh. I'm a partner solutions architect at AWS, and I look after SAP business in Australia and New Zealand. Today, I want to talk about a topic which is very close to me. And in this topic, which we are very traditional SAP landscape, but the point I'm trying to make today is thinking beyond infrastructure. Typically, when you deploy such business critical applications, you are very focused on the underlying infrastructure, but the entire value proposition of AWS is thinking beyond your infrastructure and do a lot of things which are not possible traditionally. So in AWS, we always say it's a two-way door. We allow customers the flexibility to try the environment without getting into any contract or commitments, and that's a kind of culture we always we have in AWS. We try, we let customers experiment, fail, learn, again try, and they deploy the entire workloads. So this kind of culture helps customers from a point of evolution where they evolve and they optimize their process, which are right for their business growth. And if you ask me in summary why customers, not only for SAP but any other application, why they need to deploy on AWS, it basically categorizes into these 4 important factors. The speed at which you can deploy, you can get a system to provision. It's remarkable. I used to work for SAP before, and in order to install SAP, in fact, back 15 years back, when I used to when I started my SAP journey, to install SAP application, it used to take a couple of weeks' time, and my boss used to say, "Well done, good job." Now, no more, we can't rely on those same timelines. Nowadays, we have released the CloudFormation script or the templates, which lets you install end-to-end SAP application, the database in less than 30 minutes, and SAP application in less than 2 hours. And that's SAP's way of different designing. I mean, everything is end-to-end, supported and certified by SAP. This includes SAP application deployment, infrastructure, hardening, OS optimizations, and so on and so forth. Security is the paramount for any kind of applications. Security, we always say, is a day 0 job. The entire platform is built on the best practices of security, and we learn from various customers, type of customers which deploy their workload on AWS, like needless to mention, like CIA, NASA, FBI. They have their workloads on AWS, and the requirements, the standard requirements, we have taken that and put it in the platform. We have bundled it, and it's available for all customers, whether it's small or big. They can leverage from the features. Flexibility. How many of you have heard a solution called SAP HANA? Awesome. SAP HANA is an in-memory database. It's super expensive, not only at the software layer, but also on the appliances. It requires a different type of hardware if you want to run it. It's a pure in-memory. So if you want to deploy a half a terabyte or terabyte of HANA, it's a terabyte of memory instance you need. It's specially designed hardware. Now, we let customers choose and deploy up to 4 terabyte of SAP HANA on demand. So you can spin up, test it out, destroy, and if you don't like it, just destroy everything as part of the process, as part of the testing. And you are only charged for the duration of time the infrastructure is up and running. That kind of flexibility we provide. We have thousands of customers across the globe using SAP on our platform. One thing is important to mention over here, customer like Fairfax Media, our publicly referenceable customer, they moved from 256 gig to 1 terabyte in a matter of 1 week. And this 1 week, if you see technically, it was less than half an hour, which it takes. But there was other process involved as well, like approval, the entire landscape changes. And this is virtually impossible in the traditional world, moving from such a small instance to large instance. And that kind of flexibility AWS provide to the customer to start small and then grow. Customers like Uber, customers like Airbnb, they have leveraged our platform. They have started small and they have grown as they scaled from their workload perspectives. Needless to mention, agility on the same lines as well. They can leverage that. And how this is possible is we always believe if anything which takes more than 2 or 3 days for you to build has to be automated. Automation requires a lot of time. Automation requires a lot of testing. So it's not that automation always shortens your duration. So many times it's not possible for customers and our partners to deploy and create these automation scripts on their own. So we have built these scripts for them so that they can just deploy in few clicks end-to-end solutions up and running. But at the same time, these entire scripts are freely available for anyone to download and customize. So it's not something which is proprietary. We work in a very open world. Entire code is available on the GitHub. You can always download it. You can customize it on your business requirements and then deploy. Again, we have some gentlemen from NAB specializing in data warehouse. I just wanted to say we have an entire data lake CloudFormation script as well, which you can deploy directly from our website, and it builds end-to-end solution, end-to-end data lake on AWS. So again, these kind of deployments you can use it end-to-end. And as you can see, the entire environment There are the bunch of services which are used, and all these are configured as part of the deployment. When you deploy, for in this example, let's say SAP HANA, which is one of the very complex solution, you have various storage layer defined. They are striped in order to get a best performance, and also there are various alarms and events triggers. They are configured so that as part of your monitoring, you will be notified if there is any issue. And the client tools are also installed as part of the script, so that you can always use it for monitoring and administration purpose. Customers like Brook Brothers, they deployed the entire SAP retail and SAP car, we call as customers activity reporting. It's a typical retail-based SAP solution. They deployed the entire SAP car on HANA on AWS, and they leveraged our CloudFormation script. So that the entire CloudFormation script or the template is a production grade. It's very much like production ready, which customers and partners can use. But at the same time, you can always customize it for your own needs as well. And this is freely available for anyone to use. As I said, Fairfax Media, they migrated from 244 to 2 terabyte in 1 hour, but as part of the entire production grade, they did that in 1 week, the entire production migration from a smaller instance to bigger instance. And this is possible because, again, we always believe that infrastructure should be treated as an immutable components. It's not something which you should always keep it and save it, love it, and spend time in debugging or troubleshooting. It's something which you can always retain, and if there is an issue, just destroy the entire infrastructure and prepare the new environment from the latest backup, so that you are not losing anything from a data perspective, but at the same time, you're not spending your time in debugging or troubleshooting. In short, this is a small list of certified instances. We have the largest instances of SAPs which can be used for different type of use cases. SAP has got various use cases. Some are compute intensive, some are memory intensive applications, and so customers can choose whatever kind of workload they want to deploy. And apart from SAP, again, we have a bunch of instances, various kind of instance types. Some are memory intensive, some are deep storage optimized. So depending upon the workload, the customers can choose those kind of instance and deploy it on AWS. We have a world record of largest HANA deployment by technology called deployment technology called a scale out. So if you deploy HANA in a scale out mode, you can deploy up to 50 terabytes on cloud. On a scale up mode, where you just basically bring up the server in one node, that's a scale up, that you can deploy up to 4 terabytes. And for larger instances, we have announced 6, 9, and 12 terabytes. And by the way, these are memory. These are not normal instances. These are HANA instance of 12 terabytes or 9 terabytes of memory. We have announced, and they will be available later this year. All right, so I've given you some high-level SAP overview and some of the offerings we have. But in a typical SAP world, and that's not the topic of presentation today. My topic of presentation today is how we can think beyond infrastructure, right? All these are the infrastructural things. That's fine. I have a cool demo to show you how you can do some of these operational overheads, or operational difficulties simplified in AWS. So let's say some of the operational difficulties in SAP world. First of all, it requires SMEs from various teams and coordination. Things like a simple backup is so difficult in SAP world, because you need to have you need to ensure that it's done at the right window of backup. Otherwise, it will result in a performance issues. There are various kinds of servers. You have your app servers, you have DB servers. Those needs to be done in a different ways. It's very time consuming if someone is doing it, and in a traditional world, these are done in a very traditional way, in a manual manner, or script someone runs it manually. This is very time intensive and error prone. Very complex to debug in case something goes wrong. you might not get the window again to take a backup, and most of the time the backups are missed out. And that's the reason why you buy third-party tools to manage your entire backups. Expensive, lead time, and let's say take example of a very simple operation called start and stop operation. Start of stop of SAP. That's a very simple process, right? But if you don't follow the right sequence, your SAP won't start up. Now, what that interprets from a typical execution perspectives, customers in a large SAP environment, they don't even shut down their machines, especially like the sandbox or development environment. That result in extra cost. Now, it's very easy to understand that there are small set of steps why can't we script it. But remember, in case of any SAP environment, there are various environments. You have a sandbox environment, development, training, quality, pre-production, production. All these environments will have at least 4 or more servers. And slowly you will see your landscape has more than 100 servers easily from SAP perspectives. Now, if you don't follow this sequence, it might result in an outage, and that's why there's a special need required from a simple start and stop, and that's just example. Similarly, backup of a server, auto scaling. How many of you heard a term called auto scaling in AWS? So auto scaling is typical technology used within AWS where you use events or triggers to automatically scale and scale down. Unfortunately, you can't use the technology in SAP. Why? Because SAP is a stateful application, and at the same time, SAP doesn't certify this. So if SAP doesn't certify and support auto scaling, you can't scale. So SAP has its own way of scaling your servers. Now, with all these preliminary information behind us, I'm going to show a demo how you can simplify some of these processes what we have seen in a very simple and very friendly manner, right? And the services which I'm going to use is some of these are mentioned over here. So I'm going to use Amazon Lex. Have you heard of this service called Amazon Lex? It's a very cool service. I would strongly recommend every one of you to use it. It's very simple to use. This gives you a flexibility and capability to create your own chatbots. You can create your chatbots. You can literally talk very much like a human. You won't even identify whether you are talking to a chatbot or a human. You can bring that kind of intelligence. This Lex uses ASR and NLU. ASR is automatic speech recognition, and NLU is natural language understanding. It has the same level of understanding and technology which is used in Alexa, right? So the demo which I have is literally I can talk and I can give my commands, or you can literally type as well. You can also integrate that with other technologies like Slack or other collaboration tools. The second service which I'm going to use is Systems Manager. Now, Systems Manager brings a lot of capabilities which helps you do your inventory management, OS patching, some OS level detail at the application layer. It gives you that level of flexibility and capability. AWS Lambda. Now, Lambda is a serverless code where you can just bring your code, put it in Lambda, and it will start executing. And you basically pay only for the execution time, which is like in seconds or milliseconds. That's it. So you don't worry about the underlying infrastructure. You just bring your code and deploy it. So I'm using, and of course CLI. So I'll be using these services to simplify 4 use cases which we have seen, like start, stop, scaling, backup of SAP. All right. Now the architecture which I have used is this. So as a user, I'll be talking to Slack, and of course in this particular demo, I'm an admin, but this Slack can be always integrated with the AD, and that will decide whether I'm authorized to perform this kind of operations or not. Slack integrates and talks to a Lex service, which triggers Lambda, and that performs set of operations and activities. All right, with that, I'll be connecting my laptop for demo.